How do I know this?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. How do you know this?
Do you know Sean Combs?
Puff Daddy?
Yeah.
P. Diddy, whatever you call himself these days. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he's part of what's called the Boule. The Boule is a branch of the Illuminati.
Okay.
It's the black people. I had settlement with Sean, okay? And he belongs to that agenda. That's why he's so famous. They land all the contracts. It's his attorneys. I had sex with Cassie and Sean. Basically, he would tell me what to do with Cassie. I had like 15 encounters, and I heard a lot of business. Because what they would do is Sean talks a lot on the phone and on the TV with speakers and stuff, and I was like a slave, okay? For them, that's what I was. That's all right? I caught herpes, and I came back and I sued him for the herpes and won. Mark Garagos and Ben Mercedes were his attorneys, okay? And Christopher Leon's here was my attorney. They asked me to turn in that, which was the video recording, and I did so. They gave it back to me accidentally, and it's possible, I threw everything out, it's possible I can produce a copy.
The judge is refusing to grant bail to Sean Diddy. Combs orders him sent back to jail where he will await trial. Very important that we just get this update in here live. Sean Diddy will not have bail in this case. Again, this was a major part of what his lawyers were arguing for, and potentially even putting up a $50 million proposal in order to make sure that did happen. It will not be happening. The judge said that there was significant violence, weapons around as well. Also, coercion of witnesses. Even gentle coercion can be effective. The type of behavior we're talking about happens behind closed doors, and I thank your family members for coming, but I cannot release him.
As alleged, Combs used force, threats of force, and coercion to cause victims to engage in extended sexual performances with male commercial workers, some of whom he transported or caused to be transported over state lines. Combs allegedly planned and controlled the sex performances, which he called freak-offs, and he often electronically recorded them. The freak-offs sometimes lasted days at a time, involved multiple commercial workers, and often involved a variety of narcotics, which Combs distributed to the victims to keep them obedient and compliant. As alleged, when Combs didn't get his way, he was violent, and he subjected victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse so that they would participate in the freak-offs. In addition to the violence, the indictment alleges that Combs threatened and coerced victims to get them to participate in the freak-offs. He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways, including by giving them drugs, by giving and threatening to take away financial support or housing, by promising them career opportunities, by monitoring their whereabouts, and even by dictating their physical appearance. Because of all of this, the indictment alleges that the victims did not believe they could refuse Combs without risking their security or facing more.
In the attorney's press conference today, there was a phrase used a number of times, at least 3 by my count: freak off. And that is not something that feels like a traditional legal term. Have you heard it before, or is that unique to this case?
Well, that's definitely not a legal term. So my reading of the references to the freak off was something that Combs created. It was some kind of sexual event where women who were coerced or sexually were forced to engage in sexual conduct with male workers. Sometimes being drugged, sometimes under the threat of violence. And violence and drugs were used to coerce people to stay. If they weren't participating in those acts, they were threatened. And not just through threat or violence, but really ruining their entire potential career if they were somebody who thought that they could be in the music industry. And we have to put it in a context where Sean Combs was an incredibly powerful and influential professional in the music industry. And so people felt compelled to participate in whatever he wanted so that they could have a shot. So quite frankly, it seems like the freak off, certainly nothing I've ever heard in the law, something that he constructed and coined the term, and now that's being repeated everywhere.
As of right now, things are looking absolutely horrible for the rapper P. Diddy. I mean, just when you think it couldn't get any worse, the situation surrounding him seems to be unraveling day by day with more damaging developments emerging constantly. It all started with Diddy being taken into custody, and things have only gone downhill from there after being denied bail. The first time, his legal team tried offering more to get him out. But guess what? He was denied for the second time. As well now, he's facing a harsh reality that he'll remain behind bars until his trial begins. And we all know that can take quite some time. Even his own attorney admitted that Diddy is likely going to be locked up until his trial, which is unsettling considering that's the one person who's supposed to be his beacon of hope in this situation.
We made a bail appeal to Judge Carter. It did not go our way. The fight continues. We're not giving up by a long shot. I told Mr. Combs I'm going to try and get his case to trial as quickly as possible. I'm going to try and minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and I believe inhumane housing conditions in the special housing unit of the Metropolitan Detention Facility. And I'm going to do everything that I can to move his case as quickly as possible. I understand that the government has a great amount of electronic devices that they have to download and provide to me, but everything's on the government's timetable, nothing's on the defendant's timetable, and they're going to have to accommodate me and him and give us a quick trial, and I'm going to be pushing for that.
But what's truly shocking is the mountain of evidence that just keeps piling up against him. Earlier this year, fans and the public were introduced to the term freak off, which at first seemed like just another wild rumor. However, as time passed, more and more information began to surface, making it hard to dismiss. What started as whispers has now turned into an alarming reality, as it's been officially confirmed that these freak offs are real. The U.S. attorney recently dropped some bombshell revelations, confirming the existence of these events. Even more damning is the fact that during the raid on Diddy's home, they found tapes of these freak offs and other incriminating materials, which are now part of the growing case against him. The evidence is overwhelming, and it seems like the situation is only getting worse for Diddy as more details come to light. We'll let you check out what the U.S. attorney had to say about it yourself, but it's clear that the rapper's legal troubles are far from over, and things aren't looking good as the investigation continues to unfold.
As part of this investigation, in March of this year, special agents from HSI executed search warrants at Combs' residences in Miami and Los Angeles. They also executed a warrant for Combs' electronic devices. During those searches, agents seized evidence of the crimes charged in this indictment. They seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 defaced AR-15s and a large-capacity drum magazine. They also seized evidence of the freak-offs, electronic devices that contain images and videos of the freak-offs with multiple victims. And they seized cases and cases of the kinds of personal lubricant and baby oil that Combs' staff allegedly used to stock hotel rooms for the freak-offs, more than 1,000 bottles altogether. Here are some of the items that we recovered during the searches. As you can see here, this is a drum magazine, large capacity, and it contains, I believe, 59 rounds. I mentioned as well, we recovered 3 AR-15s. This is a close-up shot of one of the AR-15s, and you can see right here, the serial number has been thoroughly defaced.
But it's not just Diddy that we have to worry about now. That we know all this information about him is true. It's clear that he wasn't the only one involved in these events. He most likely had a whole system in place, carefully designed to ensure nothing would get out to the public, with certain individuals playing specific roles throughout these so-called freak-offs. The U.S. attorney even hinted that other big names could be involved, which is something that may come to light when the case hits the courtroom. Considering how big Diddy is in the rap game, it wouldn't be surprising if some of his powerful and high-profile friends were connected to these events. As well, Diddy's reach and influence extend far beyond his music, and if there's a network involved, it could mean other prominent figures are part of this scandal. The possibility that other well-known names could be dragged into the investigation adds another layer of intrigue and concern. While the focus is on Diddy right now, the scope of the case could expand as more details emerge, potentially exposing others in his circle who may have played a part.
Now, Combs did not do this all on his own. As I mentioned, Combs has been charged with RICO conspiracy. He used his business and employees of that business and other close associates to get his way. Those individuals allegedly included high-ranking supervisors in the business, personal assistants, security staff, and household staff. The indictment alleges that those individuals facilitated the freak-offs. They booked the hotel rooms and stocked them with the supplies, including drugs, baby oil, personal lubricant, extra linens, and lighting. When the hotel rooms got damaged, they helped clean it up. They arranged for victims and commercial workers to travel for the freak-offs, and they delivered large quantities of cash to Combs to pay for the commercial workers. The indictment also alleges that they helped Combs cover up his crimes.
And it doesn't end there. TMZ was actually hosted by Fox 5 New York to discuss the ongoing situation, and during their segment, they revealed that rumors are swirling about people who are now willing to come forward and share their experiences with Diddy at these freak-offs. If these individuals step up and confirm what went down at these events, Diddy's situation could go from bad to catastrophic. While there's already mounting evidence against him, having first-hand accounts from people who were actually at these events would be the thin nail in the coffin. If witnesses come forward and corroborate what's already been uncovered, it's hard to see a scenario where Diddy escapes the fallout. Not only would it further solidify the case against him, but these witnesses could also expose details that haven't been captured on the footage seized during the raid, potentially dragging even more high-profile figures into the scandal. At this point, it's not just the evidence piling up, it's the looming threat of insiders stepping up to confirm it all. If that happens, Diddy's career and legacy could be permanently tarnished, and the ripple effect could extend far beyond just him pulling others into the spotlight as well.
What's the latest with the investigation?
Yes, Steve and Bianca, as U.S. Attorney Damian Williams promised earlier this week, he said this is an ongoing investigation and that they will be speaking to more people. We found out that these two individuals, and we have actually spoken to one of them. They are both workers, currently workers. One of them says that they had an interaction with Diddy in 2014. And they are willing to tell the feds what they know about that interaction. And another one said that they are willing, and not only willing, but have been subpoenaed to go before the grand jury. So the second person could end up going before the grand jury. At this stage, they are just going to be interviewed by prosecutors. Clearly, they're trying to figure out what these other witnesses know and how they can help them convict Diddy, and that's the name of the game at this point.
And for Diddy, he's probably feeling the weight of fear and uncertainty right now. The facility where he's currently being held is none other than MDC Brooklyn, a federal jail infamous for its harsh and dangerous conditions. This isn't just any ordinary jail. It's the only remaining federal facility in New York City after the Bureau of Prison shut down the Metropolitan Correctional Center in Manhattan back in 2021. Since opening its doors in the 1990s, MDC Brooklyn has developed a notorious reputation for a long list of problems that only seem to be getting worse. Diddy now finds himself in a facility that houses approximately 1,200 detainees, though that number was even higher earlier this year. Conditions inside described as downright dreadful by those who have endured them. In fact, some judges have refused to send people there in recent years due to the increasingly grim environment. MDC Brooklyn is plagued by rampant violence, severe staffing shortages, and widespread drug smuggling, much of which is suspected to be aided by staff members themselves. The dangers aren't just limited to interactions with other inmates. There are serious concerns about what goes on behind the scenes as well. On top of the violence, the detainees are often subjected to frequent and extended lockdowns where they're confined to their cells without access to basic necessities like visits, phone calls, showers, or even outdoor exercise. These lockdowns can drag on for days, compounding the sense of chaos and stability inside the facility. It's a brutal reality that many inside MDC Brooklyn have had to endure. What's even more alarming is that some detainees may not even make it to trial due to the extreme conditions within the jail. High-profile inmates such as R. Kelly, Ghislaine Maxwell, and Sam Bankman-Fried have all spent time in this facility, and none of them escaped without complaints about the harsh environment. For Diddy, the thought of possibly spending a year or more in such a notorious and violent place while awaiting trial must be terrifying. He's not just facing his legal battles, he's facing the brutal conditions of MDC Brooklyn, where survival alone could be one of his biggest challenges.
You know, he's going to be in this at Brooklyn, MDC Brooklyn. Who knows? It could be up to a year before this trial begins. And obviously, they're going to be, his attorneys have said that they're going to try to get him moved to a different facility. But for now, he's in there, and what we've been told by a former warden is he's a target. That's the fact of the matter, and that's why they have him in a solitary part of the jail, because they don't, he becomes a target because it's like what we've been told, it's like a badge of honor that if you were able to inflict some violence on Diddy, that gets you score points with other inmates. So that's a situation that obviously the jail officials do not want to happen, so they're going out of the way to make sure that doesn't happen. He is in a really, can you imagine like the lap of luxury that Diddy's been used to for decades now, and then just like that, he is now in this jail, and unless they can get him bail at some point, he's going to be behind bars for a long time.
So, I mean, as fans and people following this case, the only thing we can really do is wait and see what unfolds on the plus side for us fans. At least, we don't have to be nervous about getting a call from the U.S. attorney asking us to come in and discuss some footage of us being at one of these parties. It's been said that so many people were spotted at Diddy's parties over the years, and with all that's coming to light, you never know who might get caught up in the investigation. While we don't know exactly who attended these infamous freak-offs, we do know there's plenty of footage out there from Diddy's regular parties. But here's the catch: those regular party pictures could have been taken right before the freak-off started, and we wouldn't even know it. It's all a big question mark right now, and as more evidence comes out, there's no telling who else could be implicated or what details will emerge. For now, all we can do is sit back and watch as this case continues to develop.
Oh, and just briefly, what's going on behind the scenes in Hollywood? All these people who partied with him, who might be on these hidden tapes, what level of panic are you hearing from all these people we know who associated with him over the years?
I will tell you, Steve, we are not hearing any panic, because no one, and this has been true since the raids, really, nobody who we know, people who we know Diddy. We've seen them at his parties, and I'm not talking about the freak-offs. I mean, we haven't seen any of that video, though. Remember, the feds say they do have video that they seized during the raids from those freak-offs, so they know who the celebrities are if they're already involved in the freak-offs. But we've seen plenty of video over the years of Diddy's very public parties, and all of those people, they're not saying anything. They haven't for months. And yes, to your point, there certainly got to be people who are nervous about getting a call from the U.S. Attorney's Office, whether it be to come in as a witness, whether it be just to be interviewed to find out what they know, or go before the grand jury, which is something nobody wants to do. They all want to be away from this case as much as possible.
So what do you think about all of this? Do you believe Diddy will be found guilty given the serious charges and evidence against him, or do you think he might somehow find a way out of it? And as for the rest of the industry, which celebrities do you think might be next to get that phone call from authorities? With so much speculation swirling around, there's definitely a lot to consider. Let us know what you think down below. There are a lot of questions right now, and the situation keeps getting more intense as we wait for more details to emerge. It's clear that this story is far from over, and we want to hear your thoughts.